Everybody, Will here with this month's episode of the Coach's Corner. And again, George is ready for you.
Coach's Corner with Will Alexander and George Alston. Brought to you by Pro Plan and K9 Farming.
Everybody, Will here with this month's episode of Coach's Corner with none other than George Alston. Hey, George, what do you have? What do you have for us today?
I have a bunch of questions that I can go through. Some of them were sent to me from Barb Cole out in St. Louis. She does handling classes, and she's one of my students, and followed me around to a whole bunch of places and whatever. And
yeah, she seems to be doing a good job out there. So
yeah, she works hard at it. She does a nice job. Okay, number one. What do you do the first thing you do when you go to a show? That seems pretty simple, doesn't it? You put the dog out and let him poop. It should be exactly the same every time.
stick with structure. Yeah.
If you go to a baseball game, you see the players go out and each one goes through a separate routine, but every ball game, they're exactly the same. They run 75 yards. The other one may run 50 yards. Back and forth. One may do it 3 times, one may do it 5 times. But every game, it's exactly the same. Same thing with pro golfers. They go through exactly the same. Football players, tennis players, everybody does it exactly the same. Now, what did I do? I got to the show. We took care of our dogs first. And then I was always at the show before it started. I walked every ring that I was going to be showing dogs in. I didn't take a dog in, but you're allowed to go in and walk. And if an outdoor show, I knew where there was every hole. I knew if it was raining, exactly where the mud puddles were. And it came in very useful because in 1986, I started to go blind in my good eye. My left eye is blind from birth. And so I had somebody walk me around each ring, and so that I knew where everything was. Indoor shows, I knew where every one of those metal plates or whatever that are going to go.
Oh, I always hated those.
And so I actually, my dogs actually won over 50 Best in Shows when I actually showed dogs legally blind for 2 years before I had my operation, and won the national specialty, Irish Setter specialty out in California. The judge, Lang Scarta, comes up and asks me, he says, "Do you want to win this?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, I've been pointing at you." And I said, "Sir, I can't see you." And I thought he was going to take a crap right there. But my wife walked me around that show, that ground. And even if you're showing in the same venue, let's say you have 3 dog shows on the same venue in a row, everything's a little different. Noises are a little different, crowds are a little different, and you have to adjust. I have to look to see how your dog is reacting that day. But always try to make it exactly the same. And your top handlers over the years, as an example, Tommy Glassford always sat down and read the racing news every
I,
morning.
I remember that.
He'd sit there and read what the horses were doing. Bobby Barlow would read the sporting news because he played pro baseball for a while, and he would read the sporting news about baseball teams and stuff like that. Bob Forsythe would always shine his shoes. Every morning at every show Bob Forsythe would go through exactly the same thing. Bill Traynor, Annie Clark, J.D. Forsythe, all of the top handlers. The worst thing you could do is go in cold and not be prepared. You have to feel confident in that venue. So you do everything exactly the same. Okay, that's enough on that one. The next
That's a good one, though. Structure and routine. I've always think that that's very important. So
absolutely it's important. And people don't realize this, but if you want to play with the big boys and you want to be competitive against professionals, this is something you have to do.
yeah.
And it might be something that some of the young professionals could think about. Then the next thing, when should you or can you pass a dog in the ring? AKC rules, and I think Canadian Kennel Club rules state that you may not pass. It used to be back in the old days, especially the German Shepherd ring, they would take you around the ring and then they would move number 3 up to number 2 while you were in motion. And there was a lot of problems with that because dogs would see somebody come up on the side and they reach out and bite the handler or attack the other dog as they passed. So it became a rule, at least here in the States, that the judge had to bring them to a stop and then move them up to where they wanted them and then restart them. But let's say you're going around the ring and a dog has a problem. Let's say he stops to take a poop. Don't just go past, because your dog might be upset, that dog may be upset, and it's a courtesy. What you do is you stop, you wait and make sure that the person with that dog has it under control, and then that they motion you past. That is a courtesy. Don't just go right on past them, because you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're going to startle them again.
And it's also a courtesy thing. Just think, if your dog stopped to take a poop and then everybody goes flying past you, it's just a courtesy thing to stop. And also it's a safety thing. Never pass a dog unless the person that you were passing has their dog under control and then motions you to go by. Okay, the next question that we have, if a dog is fascinated by something outside the ring, how do you get their attention back? You don't. Use it. I won a lot of best in shows when I had a dog in the best in show ring, and all of a sudden there's a disturbance outside, and that dog looks, and he looks pretty good, so I let him do it. One example was, it was a very hot day up in Buffalo, New York, at a fairgrounds, and in the Best in Show ring, it was a tin building. It was 105 degrees. It was hotter than hell. I was showing a Gordon setter under a judge that didn't like necessarily my Gordon setter. He liked, I was showing two at the time, and he liked my other one. So it comes down, the dogs are just not wanting to gate going around the ring. So
Yeah, it's too hot.
it was just too hot. So we did our down and back. We started to go around the ring, and a pigeon comes in and flies around the ring. Well, my Gordon setter was a bird dog. He was used in the field. He goes chasing this pigeon around the ring, and the pigeon comes and stops on top of a chair. And we came to the end, and so there's my Gordon setter on point on this pigeon. And the judge comes up and he says, "Are you," after everybody was gated, and I'm using this pigeon outside the ring to make my dog look good. And judge says, "You going to come bring your dog over and set him up?" I said, "Are you going to go over and break his point?" I said, "I don't think that'd be a good idea." So he put me he put the dog best in show. And I asked him, I said, "How come you didn't," I said, "I know you don't care for this dog. You like my other Gordon setter." He said, "Yeah, but did you see those old farmers standing outside the ring chewing tobacco?" He says, "If I broke that dog's point and I didn't put you best in show," he says, "they'd tar and feather me before I got off the ground." And I mean, it was a good dog and whatever, but I used that.
Yeah.
I even used it when I was in juniors at Madison Square Garden. And it wasn't a disturbance outside the ring. It was a Pomeranian behind me that was barking. And my box, I'm 14 years old. And my boxers turned around looking at him. So I set the dog up backwards and faced him towards the Pomeranian. Boy, he was stretching his neck, had his ears up. He looked like $1 million, and he froze on that. And Hollis Wilson was the judge, and he comes to me and he says, "Are you going to set your dog up facing the other way like everybody else?" He says, "You tell that Pomeranian to be quiet, and I'll do it." I'm 14 years old. I ended up winning Best Junior that year because of that. So,
Yeah, well, it's true. I tell my students all the time when dogs see something outside the ring, if they look good and they're reacting in a attractive way, just let them do it. It looks worse you trying to talk them out of it. So.
Absolutely, use it. I mean, and the judges, most of the time, unless they're not very knowledgeable, they'll let you do it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Because they like to see a dog look good. And, this happens in the ring. You get somebody in the back behind you that's squeaking a squeaky mouse. So let your dog turn around and look at it. And judge says, turn around the other way. You said, tell them to stop squeaking the mouse. But use it to your advantage.
Exactly.
And, and it's because you need every advantage you can in the ring. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
No, it doesn't. And they're not robots. So.
Right. I mean, it's a live animal. They're folks. So you use it to your advantage. It's
Exactly.
Okay. If a dog, should you go past the line of dogs when you go around to the end? You see so many people, they go around, they do their individual down and back, and then they go all the way around to the end, and they go past where the line of dogs are, where the other dogs are.
Right.
That is so stupid. Because your dog is now looking at those dogs and not at you. They're looking at the dogs that they're passing. the other dogs that you're passing are upset, and they let them. And it is not courteous. So you come to the end of the line, and then you can stack. You can bait your dog and have them look good, but don't
Right.
go past anybody at the end. It makes you look like a clown, and it's
I
just
agree. And then very seldom, like there has been the odd judge that says try to use much of the ring as you can. But let's face it, by the time they get to the end of the line, they're done watching. They're on to the next one. So
they're not watching you anyway.
right.
So why wear the dog out? If the judge isn't looking, what do you do? Grandstanding for the crowd? Why,
Exactly. They can't give you a ribbon.
the crowd doesn't give you the damn ribbon. You got that right. Hey, we're on the same page, buddy. You are on the same page. Okay.
How's the weather down there in Maryland right now?
It is yesterday it was 72 degrees.
Yeah.
Not a cloud
I'm
in the
looking out the
sky.
window right now. We're having a snowstorm.
Okay. Well, this morning it was 38 degrees, but the sun's out, and it's a nice Thanksgiving day down here. I can't wait for
Oh
my
yeah, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's a U.S. Thanksgiving. And that's about all the questions I have.
Well, that's good. Well, that's enough questions.
Huh?
That's
Well,
enough questions.
I think that they were important questions, especially the one about creating a repertoire when you first get to a show.
Yeah. Structure and routine, I think, is very important.
Now, I used to carry it a little bit further. Let's say it was outdoor show and it was raining. Okay? So I would go to see just how muddy or whatever the grounds were. And if it was just wet and not muddy, I would change to metal spike golf shoes. But if it was muddy, I also had a pair of LL Bean hiking shoes that had big cleats on them, really, and it was so that I could motivate in the mud.
Right.
And so and then also too, I had, if there was really bad, I had LL Bean. It was sort of a half leather, half rubber boot things that I would wear. I had
Like a muck boot, probably.
huh?
Like a muck boot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
That's
rubber
what I
on
had,
the
muck
bottom and
boots.
leather on the top.
Yeah.
But it was very important that I had stability because most of the dogs that I showed were big running dogs.
Yeah.
And so I had to adjust so I would see exactly how muddy it was, how wet it was. Also, was the wind flapping or whatever? Now, if I had a dog that I knew that was afraid of the wind flapping a tent, I would take him up there early or have my assistant take him up early to get used to that wind or the flapping tent or
Yeah.
whatever. Also, too, to carry it one step further, go up and watch each judge, if you can, what procedure they're using so you don't get caught short.
Oh, exactly. I insist my students do that. I insist upon it. So
You got to watch and they may change. They may change. If it starts to rain, they may get you under the tent rather than straight out from the tent at an outdoor show. So So that's you have to be observant so that you don't get caught off guard. Okay, I think that's all for
That's good.
That's all for today. And just remember, dogs are folks.
They sure are. Thanks, George.
Okay, buddy. Bye.
Thanks, George. Keep those questions coming. He loves them. If you like what you see here, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.
And this year, with her strong athletic build, her fluid gait, and her confidence in the ring, the Beagle by the name of Miss P became the 9th.
The best in show is the Beagle.
Congrats, Miss P, on winning the 139th Westminster Best in Show.